It's like one of those things where it's like, man, those are the things in foster care. Something as simple as that can rock a child's day just because of the things that they have been through and they've experienced. Hello there, welcome back. Um, as you notice, there is a little bit of change of scenery behind me. Um, Palm trees are not native to our home state, and it is also very sunny. But it's also been sunny where our home is as well. This is a kind of a special weekend. Um, I took my oldest son, biological son, who is 18, so he's like out of school. We normally, I think for probably the past 3 or 4 years, even at least have gone to one Cleveland Browns game a year. Now, last year, there's planes going overhead. I don't even know if you hear that or not. It's really loud to me, but every year for, like I said, 3 or 4 years, we went to at least one game. Last year, I tried to get us to most of the home games, and we got to most of them. It was kind of a special time in his senior year to be able to go to most of the home games and just use that time as not the primary focus was not football games. That was like just the catalyst to give us time to talk and just kind of try to download. As you have older teen children, you hit a point they start to get toward the end of high school, the end of college, whatever you want to call it, whatever stage it may happen to be, where you just feel like, man, I got everything left in me in terms of knowledge, wisdom. You just try to like dump that into them. So I kind of use that as a way to not just dump it to overwhelm, but just kind of like, because, your kids, most kids at that age, they're coming more into themselves, into their adult role in life. And some of them are probably quicker to pick up on more adult responsibility type things than others. But I kind of use that as just our time to connect. And it was a special time. We got to experience some really cool game endings. I know one game was like a complete whiteout of snow against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it was an amazing win. So this year we just happened to have an opportunity where somebody had some tickets to the Las Vegas Raiders versus the Browns in Las Vegas. So this was kind of a special trip. It's just the one game that we're going to go to this year. So we flew in last night, which is Saturday night. We'll go to the game today, and then we'll head back home tomorrow. So it's a very short trip. I've never actually been to Vegas. We did a lot of walking around last night, and my word, there's just an overload of lights and colors, and it's just, my son and I were talking last night. He's like, man, there's just a lot to take in here, and it can be overwhelming if you're not used to it. Just signs and colors and lights and people, and it's just a whole different world. Now, we flew in when it was dark, so he didn't really get to see the scenery. I'm hoping that we get some good looks at the scenery. We didn't rent a car or anything, so we're not going to be able to drive out into the desert or like go visit the Hoover Dam or anything like that. But you can definitely see from our hotel room the landscape of I think it's the Sierra Nevadas, which is like a part of the Rockies. But it's just a beautiful scenery. It's nice to have a change of scenery in that way. But so that's our special trip. I kind of am really trying to soak it all in, the time with him. And that brings me to the topic that I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about two different things in our journey as foster parents. The first one is what I'm doing right now. You know, they say in your pre-service training that your own family essentially comes first, like your biological kids. Those are the kids that we believe that God has given you charge over for your entire life, to bring them up and send them off into their God-given roles and callings that they have in their life. So that is very important. And one of the things that the pre-servants stressed was that keeping those bonds strong, whether if you're a married couple, keeping your married bond strong, which we've at times have done well, and there's times that we have not done well at all, if I'm being honest. And but your own kids, you've got to keep that special bond with them, just so you can you can say all day that you're important, you're still important, but we've got to focus on this other thing over here with some placements. Sometimes words can only go so far, but sometimes you have to do it. You have to show that you're wanting to spend the time with them and do that. So that's what I'm a part of what I'm doing today. I'm very blessed and lucky to be able to come to Las Vegas, not be or fly anywhere else. I'm very thankful that we're in the position that we could do that and things worked out the way it did. But you don't have to go to a different town, different city. You can do things within your own neighborhood. Go out to eat. Go to a local park. Go to a state park, or go somewhere where your son or daughter is interested in, even if you are not. That's a big one. A lot of times we as parents, we don't really want to concern ourselves with some of the things our kids are into, and we just kind of like, that's your thing. But sometimes being involved with that kind of shows a willingness to connect with them on that level, and that's a good thing. So that's the one thing I wanted to stress as you are thinking about becoming foster parents. If you have kids already, you really need to be proactive in how you maintain your relationship with them, because the dynamic will change, and sometimes it puts a lot of stress on you and your entire household, not just you and as the parent, but also your kids in your house. You have to constantly be thinking about them and how everything is affecting them. So they may not be on board. Like, one of our bio kids was not fully on board when we started this, but we still felt called to move forward, and we felt it wasn't at a degree to where we wanted to put the brakes on it. But we still had to really watch and maintain and make sure that child was still okay. Now, whether we did it right or did it wrong, I don't know yet. Sometimes in life, your kids, they'll divulge something later in life that you never even knew that took place. That is the double-edged sword of parenting, for sure. The other thing I wanted to talk about was with our current placement, who we will be adopting. He was our first foster placement, and I wanted to tell you a tiny story about just leaving on trips. So when we got our first placement, he was 3 years old. He came from another foster home, and we ended up meeting the other family like in a parking lot, because they were a couple hours away from us. So everything was coordinated through our agency, and we, through the county and through our agency, everything was coordinated for this transfer to take place. So, but it happened in a parking lot. And so we took him in, and he was our first placement, so we had, a little bit of clue of what we were doing, but not really. So then, as time goes on, when we had other placements, or we even did respite care, for other kiddos. And we've had other placements that have been transferred that have left our home and went to another home on a more permanent basis that happened in parking lot. I don't know why. For us, it may be different for you. It's probably that way for us because we have a private agency, where a county you might have like both families meet at the county office for child services, whatever it's called in your state. But it just always happened to be a parking lot. So it was earlier this year. I went on an international trip to Israel, and um, my wife, a friend of ours, and our little mister, we call him, came with me to drop me off at. We were going to coordinate with somebody else that was going on the trip in the group as well, and we were going to meet that person somewhere, like maybe a halfway point, and then I would just ride with them to the airport, just to cut down on the trip back and forth going to the airport. And so we're riding along, doing our thing, talking about the trip. We get out, we say, our goodbyes, we pray. I give little Mister a hug and tell him I love him. And he gave me a little, well, my wife kind of nudged him. He didn't want to give it up, but he gave me a little, we're talking a tiny, like inch and a half size dinosaur, something that I could take. Him kind of said, "Why don't you let Daddy have that, and he'll take it with him, and he'll remember you." And he was like, "I don't know what he said, but he was very hesitant. He didn't want to give it up. I don't blame him." So, but he gave it to me, and he was, wasn't horribly sad, pretty quiet. And then, so we parted ways. I left with the people that I was riding with. My wife and her friend and Mister were driving back home. I get a text or a phone call, I can't remember, but Kim calls me and says he is losing it, meaning our little Mister. I said, "What's going on?" He said he is crying, he is sobbing, and I'm like, "Why?" She said, "He thinks you're not going to come back." And I said, "Oh my gosh." I felt horrible. Now, it's not anything that I purposely did, um, but we kind of worked through it. I talked with him on the phone. I think we FaceTime. Kim was very good about walking him through that and helping him to kind of regulate those big feelings that he had. And as we trip was done, I can't remember when we thought about it, but we kind of reflected back on that, and we kind of were like, you know what? When he left his first foster placement and came to us, it was in a parking lot. There were goodbyes, and he left that house never to go back. And he's seen placements in our care, whether it's for respite or probably more focused, like when we've transferred kids to other homes, we usually met in a parking lot, and they were leaving and they weren't coming back. And all of a sudden we were like, oh my gosh, here we are in a parking lot saying goodbye. And I can't imagine what he was thinking. So that's one of the lessons that we had to learn kind of the hard way. Him getting upset, nobody was hurt. Nobody was, physically hurt. But we learned it the hard way in the fact that, man, if we would have just thought about what we were doing, and we're not beating ourselves up about it. I am getting emotional only because I love that little guy. Man, um, it's not, most anybody would be like, what you would, it would have been hard to think of that. You know what I mean? We're not beating ourselves up over it, but it's just like one of those things where it's like, man, those are the things in foster care. Something as simple as that can rock a child's day just because of the things that they have been through and they've experienced. And it's not even necessarily, I want to say, jumping from home to home is a good thing. You learn in pre-service that every time a child moves from home to home, you're adding a layer of trauma, even if it's for their better. It's just the way it is, and you just can't get around it. So, um, but yeah, that was one of the biggest um, things that we learned on the fly, and we didn't really figure it out until after the fact. But you're going to have a lot of that. I mean, you can't. There's no way you can, especially as a new foster parent, and even at this point earlier this year, it's not like we've been doing it for decades, but we've been doing it for, I think at that point, for 3 or 4 years. So it didn't necessarily come quick to us either. But it's just one little thing that can pop up on you, and you got a kiddo that just acts out or gets upset or gets really sad in an instant, and it's one of those things where it's like, where is this coming from? And luckily, we were able to piece it together and figure out what were the factors that played into that. And so now I tied that into this trip because we had to really lay the groundwork for him, for me to take this trip. And that's one of the lessons we learned. So it was probably a week out. We were like, okay, Daddy is going on a trip with our other son, but he will come back. Like, we always had to follow it up, but he will come back. He will come back. Yes, he will come back. And he still kind of got upset thinking about it. He got sad. He's like, I will miss you, or I don't want you to go, and then he'll flip the script on you and be like, yeah, you can go. It's okay. So his emotions were probably, at least they weren't, at least from our observation, they weren't huge, but they were kind of up and down. And so we just had to really lay the groundwork and be like, Daddy's going to leave, but he's coming back. And then we try to make it like easy for him to understand, be like, okay, he's going to be gone for, we call it 3 sleeps. So, however many nights that you sleep in bed. So, Saturday night, Sunday night, and then I would get back Monday, but I wouldn't see him until Tuesday. So that's 3 sleeps. We'd be like, okay, Daddy's going, he's coming back, but it's only going to be 3 sleeps. So that kind of helped him. He still was he wasn't upset as the time that I left first earlier in the year, but he was, I think, was able to manage it a bit better, because we had to really lay the groundwork and prepare him for that. And that may be something he never can fully regulate and understand and be secure in. And that's one of the things as a foster parent, you just be like, they're just going to struggle with that, and you just got to learn how to manage it. So that's my 1 or 2 things that I wanted to talk about today, just because it ties in with our life and trying to figure all this out as we're becoming better, trying to become better foster parents. Becoming is, I'm going to say this, the word becoming is going to be very important soon with our channel. I'm not going to divulge it all, because we don't really have it all, but that's going to be one of the key words. And it really kind of encompasses a lot for us. So thank you guys for watching. I'm going to throw some clips of our trip here, just to, your obligatory B-roll montage of clips of our time here in Las Vegas, going to the game and just kind of seeing all the sights. So thank you guys for watching. Click like, go ahead and subscribe. We're going to try to give you more content of our journey becoming foster parents, adoptive parents, and just family life in general. Just to kind of share with you our journey, and hope to bring you some encouragement and give you a community to be able to ask questions and get feedback. All right. Thank you all. Bye-bye.